So if you missed the news the last couple of days, a super reliable source of Nate the Hate, he's pretty much been 100% spot on, has pretty much come out and said, yes, we are going to have a Nintendo Direct next week, around next Thursday, and it's going to be a partner showcase. Obviously, I, expressed my disdain for this, and a lot of people online showed how upset they were with this. I'm not going to talk about this until it's officially announced from Nintendo right now. I'm just going to say, this is going to be a very hard thing for me to, see announced. I know it's going to happen. Preparing myself for the thing. Now, there's some sources out there, not as reliable as Nate the Hate at all, kind of hinting at potentially another Direct right after the partner showcase, whether it be in February or March, but they're kind of hinting at it being a general and maybe even hinting at something Mario, but I'm not buying into any of this stuff because even Nate the Hate checks again with his sources and he doesn't really have anything to report on a general Direct as of right now. So it looks like we're just getting a partner showcase, and obviously that sucks for a lot of us. Now, I was very heated about this because it genuinely just makes no sense, and like I said, I'm trying not to dive too far into this. I'll talk about why it makes no sense once it's officially announced, but make a long story short, it's just not what they need right now. A lot of people are looking for the next major first-party game. Even, investors are saying this. Even Nintendo senior employees have been saying this, but still Nintendo decides to do what Nintendo does best, just complete stupid stuff. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Nintendo's output so far with the Switch 2, because a lot of people seem to love the fact that there's so many games on Switch 2 compared to what Nintendo did their first entire year of Switch 1, which is very true. Nintendo has launched a bunch of games so far with Switch 2, whether it be Switch 2 editions, smaller games, spin-offs, and a couple big games. They've done a lot. I can't lie about that. There's been literally a release every month, towards the end of last year, which was crazy, and I couldn't find time to get all the games done. There were so many games. And in case you're wondering, I actually 100%ed every single game that came out from Nintendo on the Switch 2 so far. I spent months digging deep into fully finishing Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, also Kirby Air Riders. Yes, I 100%ed Kirby Air Riders. Metroid Prime 4, I 100%ed that game. I 100%ed Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think technically the only one I didn't 100% was Pokemon Legends ZA. I just beat the game. There's still some post-game stuff I gotta do and finish off the rest of my decks, but maybe I'll do that eventually. I don't really have that much, desire to do that right now. But my point is, there were a lot of games, even some months with multiple games in a single month, so I found myself having to hurry up and beat a game, in a couple of weeks for the next game to come out and stuff. But as many games as there are, I couldn't help but shake the feeling of, I just don't feel excited when I'm playing these games. It almost feels like Nintendo cares about what's coming out every single month now, instead of caring about what are the big titles that we have in the lineup in the near future. You know what I mean? It's just like they're so focused on making sure there's at least one game, no matter how small it is, releasing every single month. And a lot of people eat this up. In fact, I wanted to see Nintendo do this, especially when they were doing something similar in 2017. I really was excited to hear that Nintendo was going to pretty much have a game every single month, until I got to the end of the year and finished Metroid Prime 4 in mid to late December. I started to feel a bit Mario Kart World came out with the Switch 2, and you guys know how I felt about that. It was, a fun new experience to jump into at first, but then after some deep playing, I realized, yeah, this game has a lot of issues, and it doesn't let the players play the way that they want, and I just don't feel like racing on intermissions anymore, and I put the game down after a while. I had kind of a very mixed bag with this game, where it's a love-hate relationship. I ended up giving it around a 7 out of 10, but yeah, I wanted to play the game a lot longer than I did. Well, thanks to Nintendo's awful spacing of games, we got the second and probably last big game for the Switch 2 since, with Donkey Kong Bonanza, which released literally just a month later in July. So right after Mario Kart, they just slapped Donkey Kong on us, and thankfully though, Donkey Kong was the game for me. This game was everything I was expecting it to be and more. I loved Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it was a truly great experience from start to finish, especially in the finish, if you know what I mean. But Donkey Kong Bonanza was a true gem of the Switch 2, and is a game that I'm already thinking about going back and replaying because it was just that much fun. I know it might not resonate with everybody the way a 3D Mario would. It definitely has a bigger emphasis on fighting and digging instead of platforming like a Mario game would, but still, man, I love this game. This was definitely the Switch 2 highlight for me. But ever since Donkey Kong Bonanza's release, I felt like Nintendo has just prioritized quantity without even putting the quality into some of these games. They threw out a couple of absolutely insane games with Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour and Drag and Drive. The Welcome Tour game was a $10 demo for how the Switch 2 works and the components that make up your console. It was literally like a, guide for your console, but you had to pay for it. Very strange. I actually found some enjoyment out of it for what it was, but it was just like, what are we doing? How is this like the big pack-in game that's not even technically a pack-in game with your console? You gotta pay for this thing. And Drag and Drive was just... No, I'll be honest with you. I think I had more fun on Switch 2 Welcome Tour than this game. It just felt like they had one idea and nothing else. There's one court that you'll play on, very minimal customization, no other modes outside of the main basketball mode, and just nothing else that fills the game with any content. It feels like ARMS if there were no original characters, no maps, no extra game modes. Just bare minimum. This was bare minimum the game. And then you have all of these Switch 2 edition games that would fill the rest of the months just because, hey, it's a game, so of course people are going to go crazy over it. And they did. I am really glad to see upgrades like Breath of the Wild and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And these things came out with the system launch and was only like $5 to $10 upgrades. I believe they're free if you had Switch Online. So like, yeah, those are pretty cool, and being able to play some older games like Mario Odyssey and a better frame rate and better resolution out of the gate of your Switch 2 was a good idea. But it's when they use these games to fill empty months, like they did with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which just added a couple of remixed levels and a remixed final boss fight, felt just like a filler thing. And don't even get me on the Mario Party Jamboree Plus TV thing that literally just felt like a cash grab DLC with them not even adding new boards or mini games. It was just these stupid, motion camera things to use your new camera if you bought one, which also did not come with the console. I know people like Jamboree originally. I already wasn't a big fan of the game. I feel like the mini games are some of the weakest in the series. The maps are pretty good. The boards are pretty great, actually. But the mini games are just very repetitive, and there's just so few of them when it comes to actually getting them on the boards because there's so many mini games tied to other modes that no one's going to care about. So, yeah, this was just absolutely not for me. Then we move on towards the end of the year, and honestly, I think the holiday game, at least for me, was Kirby Air Riders. I felt like the effort was there, the quality was there, and that's only because Sakurai developed the game with his team at Sora Limited, so he was able to pretty much make the game the way he wanted to, which makes it so special. It's hard for me to even give Nintendo a prize for this one because it's just the amount of effort that you can see in this game. Almost none of it is given in Mario Kart World. I mean, you can do so many things in this game, so many modes, so many collectibles, missions, and customization options, and even online options and control options. I mean, this game personally was better than Mario Kart World to me. And I felt like it deserved more praise, but the lobbies are already dead online for a lot of people. I'm starting to notice it now. This just wasn't going to resonate with many people outside of original Kirby Air Ride fans, because even the original game wasn't received that well, but I still think Kirby Air Riders was better than Mario Kart World. That's just me, at least. As someone who's played the other two Hyrule Warriors games, I 100%ed Age of Calamity and got close in the original. It's just so much content in the definitive edition of the original. I haven't done that yet, but I played an ungodly amount of hours in that game. So I know my Hyrule Warriors pretty daggone well, and after 100%ing this game with Age of Imprisonment, it's just okay. I felt like the combat was better in Age of Calamity. I felt like the mission structure and layout and even maps were better in Age of Calamity. Yeah, I don't know. This game was just okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It just felt like another Switch game. I personally thought I was on the higher end for Pokemon Legends ZA because I didn't hate it, but also I didn't love it. It was just okay. It was fine. It was just kind of like I completed it and felt nothing, but I didn't think it was terrible. And online, everyone seemed like they really hated it. I mean, the user score was incredibly low, and people were complaining about things like the freaking graphics being absolutely abysmal. I don't care about graphics all too much. I mean, I'm a Nintendo fan after all. That's going to be a thing for me. But just like Age of Imprisonment, I just felt like Pokemon Legends Arceus was better than this. I like the world more instead of being stuck in this city, and I like the story a lot more as well. I just, for some reason, didn't finish that game. I gotta go back and finish that game. And then we ended the year with Metroid Prime 4, a game that went through the craziest development crisis ever, from getting canceled to rebooted, and then we even learned from the developer interviews afterwards that Retro pretty much had a lot of their hands taken back from this game, where Nintendo ran the helm and gave them pretty much the leftovers that Bandai Namco was working on. This one hurt me really bad. As a big Metroid fan and somebody that's played through the Prime trilogy at least 3 times each, this game was truly my biggest letdown of the year probably. It's once again not a terrible game. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's a bad game, but it just did not feel like a Metroid Prime game. It just felt like a generic adventure game, first-person shooter adventure. Like, you couldn't even tell me that this was Samus if you couldn't see the arm cannon. A huge lack of puzzles and exploration, since 90% of this game is walk down this corridor and scan this terminal, or press this button, and then open the door and move on. And then you get trapped in a room full of enemies, shoot them all, press another button, continue down the corridor. I wanted this game to be the big holiday game, at least for me. I already know Metroid is a niche franchise still, and you know, that definitely goes for Metroid Prime. But man, I was really hoping it would live up to the other games in the trilogy, which I believe are all extremely good games, and after just coming off of 2 and 3 before this game came out, it did not feel the same. I'm not even a huge fan of Echoes, but man, this made me want to replay Echoes so bad. But then we get like a September Nintendo Direct that doesn't really reveal much outside of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, which is going to be a big game for Fire Emblem fans. I am probably going to pick it up now after getting around halfway through 3 Houses. I'm actually really enjoying it. The Splatoon Raiders wasn't even announced in the Nintendo Direct. It got a random little like 20-second trailer. We have no clue what the game's going to be, what it's going to play like. We're just all speculative right now. But everything else that's coming out next year is just small, and it feels like filler. There was an Animal Crossing Switch 2 Edition update, Mario Tennis for the 50th time, Virtual Boy added to NSO, a weird Pokemon Animal Crossing clone game, a 2D Yoshi game that looks like it's going to be made for children, Tomodachi Life, which does have its fan base. I'm really curious to see if it's going to sell as well as it did on the 3DS, but I mean, it's a Switch 1 game. Literally, it doesn't even have a Switch 2 upgrade thing. Like, it's just Switch 1. Rhythm Heaven Groove, a game that I am incredibly excited for, and I'm even planning a huge video for all the minigames in the franchise. But even with that said, that's probably going to be a Switch 1 game. It was announced during a Switch 1 Nintendo Direct, in the same Direct that Tomodachi Life was announced in, and I don't see why in the world this would have a Switch 2 edition unless they wanted to use the Joy-Con for something. So I am willing to bet that Rhythm Heaven Groove is going to be a Switch 1 game, with no specific Switch 2 upgrades. And yet again, another Switch 2 edition, but this time for Mario Bros. Wonder. Yeah, once again, look at this schedule. It just feels like it's yet again more Switch 2 editions, older games that we've already played, Switch 1 games, and smaller spin-offs. And there's nothing wrong with spin-off games coming out to keep people engaged in gaming until the next big thing, but Nintendo hasn't had a big thing since June with Donkey Kong Bonanza. Before that, it would probably be Tears of the Kingdom in May of 2023. You also had Mario Wonder that came out that year, and Pikmin 4, which were very big games for sure, especially Pikmin 4 finally coming back after so long. But still, it just like, man, these gaps between bigger franchises is becoming wider and wider and wider now. And the problem is, I feel like Nintendo's got people fooled by this method. They see that there's a game coming out every month, and they love to tell everybody, oh, this year is way better than Nintendo Switch 1's first year in 2017, because look at all these games we're getting in comparison. 2026's schedule for Nintendo Switch 2 is pretty much already filled into the summer. January was just a Switch 2 edition update for Animal Crossing New Horizons, February is for Mario Tennis, March is for Pokemon Pokopia, but thankfully they doubled up for that month to give us Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 edition as well. April's for Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, a Switch 1 game, and then we still have Yoshi and the Mysterious Book for them to give us information about, which is probably going to be in May, and we probably even know well into the summer months, because we still don't know information on Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Rhythm Heaven Groove, and the Dusk Bloods, or even Splatoon Raiders. So I think it's safe to say we know Nintendo's pretty much whole schedule outside of maybe one holiday game. And until we get to Fire Emblem or Splatoon Raiders, we're not going to really have that big game, and none of those are even necessarily big games. Fire Emblem is still growing, and Splatoon spinoff doesn't really sound like a big game, at least for the general population. For me, I think it's going to be massive. Like, it's the most anticipated game I've been waiting for in a long time. I am praying that Nintendo doesn't mess this one up. But my point is, I'm still definitely Team 2017. Did it have as many games as we've seen already in the first 7 months of Switch 2? Absolutely not. Not even in its entire first year. But the big games were big games. And personally, I don't need a new game every single month to feel fed. Like, I don't even need a spin-off here, an update, have something every month. I see people putting online, yes, Nintendo's having something every month with the Switch 2 so far. I don't need that. I mean, I am perfectly fine with getting one big game every 3 to 4 months and just playing that game, playing things on other consoles, playing, third-party games or maybe some stuff in the backlog. You can drop the occasional spin-off here or there, but expecting a new game every single month, this is what we get. We get less quality and just pure quantity. One of the things that could have fixed this was just reordering the games in their lineup. I know Nintendo wanted a big adventure game to come out, very close to launch, but they should have just made Donkey Kong Bonanza the big holiday game. Like, had Mario Kart World in June and Donkey Kong Bonanza in like September or October, probably would have been perfect, and we wouldn't have felt so just drained waiting for a next major release right now. But yeah, I'm playing all these games that are coming out. I'm even 100%ing them and doing everything that you possibly can in these games. And a lot of them, I'm just feeling nothing. It's just like, yep, another game's coming out. Of course, Mario Tennis is coming out next month. Yep, Mario Wonder is coming out with Switch 2 edition with a couple bit of new levels or remix levels with some Koopalings. That's going to be fun for about an evening. That's how I felt with Kirby. I'm like, yes, this was some fun new content for Star Across World, but I finished it in literally like a sitting of gameplay in the evening in like 2 to 3 hours. To me, 2017 had substance to it. It wasn't just trying to fill monthly gaps and, just give the players a game or something to play. It actually had huge games perfectly spaced out to get us looking forward to the next thing, and we would have some little things to tie us over until then. Dropping Breath of the Wild, one of the greatest video games of all time, out the gate, open world Zelda for the first time ever. I don't care if it came out with the Wii U as well. This is how you start off your new console. Did every single person in the world love them changing the classic 3D Zelda formula? No, some people were against it, but you couldn't argue that 99% of online talk about this game was perfect. Like, everyone loved this thing. It was unanimous across the board as the game of the year. Then 3 months later, Nintendo would have a jam-packed summer with 2 big multiplayer games. One game being Splatoon 2, which is massive, and it was really massive in Japan, but this was their brand new IP that they just started off on the Wii U, and bringing it over to Switch with a new game, and in my opinion, the best of the trilogy, this was a really huge deal, and a massive multiplayer component for their brand new console that ran the summertime. And it was partnered with, yet again, another new IP, but this one freshly new for the Nintendo Switch, being ARMS. Now, ARMS may not have resonated with absolutely everybody. I know for a lot of people they just thought it was pretty good, nothing super special, but still, with a brand new IP, it showed boldness. It showed they wasn't afraid to do new things and to do something risky, and I think it worked. It sold well enough. I remember putting in some serious hours into this game as I was waiting for Mario Odyssey in the holiday, but to have this slap dab in the middle of the year with Splatoon 2 after Breath of the Wild starting the year off, I mean, come on. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, yet again, another risky play that ended up doing extremely well for Nintendo and Ubisoft with the Rabbids and this really cool tactical RPG. Like, what were we doing in 2017? We were trying all these crazy things and they were sticking. I still remember running to the bathroom at work to watch the reveal trailer. I think it leaked or something online and I couldn't wait to see it, and I was just like amazed at what I was watching. I was like, there's no way this is a real thing. And packing in a huge 3D Mario game for your holiday game at the end of the year when you started the year off with an open world Zelda game is just freaking nuts, man. I genuinely, I'm not gonna say I don't think. I know Nintendo will never surpass this year. This wasn't just a 3D Mario game, but the first 3D sandbox game that we've gotten since the GameCube with Mario Sunshine. Like, it was a huge deal for us. And Nintendo still managed to slip in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in that December time slot. Now, these were the bigger titles of the year, and they still had smaller titles filling out the rest of the roster. They still had things like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe getting an actual deluxe treatment, adding all the DLC, a revamped battle mode, and new characters and carts, and even different mechanics switched up and changed, like adding double item slots, snipper clips, Fire Emblem Warriors. 1-2-Switch was definitely like the Welcome Tour or Drag and Drive game, but there was just enough smaller filler-like games to tie us over for the next big reveal that would only be 3 to 4 months away each time. But that's not happening right now. We're not getting a major first-party game every 3 to 4 months, or an experimental brand new IP, or a game that we haven't seen in a while brought back outside of Kirby Air Riders. And I don't know if they expected certain games to be a bigger deal for them, like Metroid Prime 4, and it just wasn't. Or I don't know if they just thought Mario Kart World was going to be the greatest game of all time and nobody was going to have an issue with it and it was going to easily carry this console into the summer of 2026. But that didn't happen either. And with this current schedule in front of us, and it seems like Nintendo is not doing a February General Direct, at least as of right now, instead of going with a partner direct, it's not looking too good for 2026. And to me, this just feels like a manipulative thing that's actually working with a part of the fan base. I'm reading constant comments on YouTube and even on Twitter of people legitimately saying to me, there's so many games. In fact, there was one individual that, no joke, said, look at all these games we have coming out. And I responded, lots of these games are classic old games that we've already played, or little updates being added to the games, or just little spin-offs like another Mario Tennis game. And they no joke respond saying, yeah, you're right, but they're games, aren't they? That just made me cringe and almost throw my phone across the room. Why are we at the point now where it's just as simple as, they're games, aren't they? Who cares if these games have minimal effort or there's no quality poured into these things? Who cares if this is a 2 or 3 year old game brought back with minimal content added just to make us pay another 20 to 30 bucks for it? Who cares when we're going to be pushing a year since Donkey Kong Bonanza until we've gotten an original first-party major game? This is the mindset that we've come to have now, where who cares? We're getting video games. Nintendo can make these games as bad as they want, but as long as they keep feeding us games every single month, we're fine. I hate this mindset. I truly believe less is more, and to be honest with you, if I wasn't a content creator, I would still buy a major portion of the games, but nowhere near as many as I did. And if I was just a casual gamer that bought a Switch 2 for Donkey Kong or Mario Kart, those are the only games I'd have on my Switch 2 right now. And this just feels like comfortable Nintendo. This isn't a struggling Nintendo. This isn't them coming off of the failing Wii U and them having to prove themselves with the first year of Nintendo Switch. And I think fans are starting to feel that too, where they're like, Nintendo's been so successful with Switch 1, I don't care what they do with Switch 2, and I don't like that feeling either. In fact, as many new games as I've been playing on Switch 2 so far, I've been spending equal if not more amount of time playing third parties that I've been having on my backlog on my PS5, or other games that I've been wanting to play from Switch 1. Like, I went back and just recently finally tried Xenoblade 1 for the first time and loved it, and now I'm playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses for the first time and also loving it, and I got other games that I want to go back and play. I'm not really too excited about anything that's coming out. Will I give Mario Tennis a try? Yeah, but I'm sure I'm going to put it down after just a couple of weeks after finishing the story mode and playing online for a little bit. And the same thing with Mario Wonder after beating that extra content, which is undoubtedly going to be like, 2 to 3 hours of extra stuff, if that. There's just nothing here that's very exciting. It feels like we're still in this Switch era, like we never truly made that jump. It felt like it was close, but it just never pushed itself any further than this. Just feels like a Switch Pro to me. The graphics are slightly better, and there are games that run at better frame rates and stuff, but there hasn't been a game yet that made me say, oh man, this feels like a Switch 2 experience. Like, Metroid Prime 4 had some graphics here and there that definitely made me think that, but still, not a specific game that really just made me feel like I'm playing on a new piece of hardware. And I know game development just takes longer now, but I'm kind of confused what's taking some of these games just as long as they are. Like, I know I bring this up every video, and I'm going to continue to, because it's just not normal for a 3D Mario game to take almost 9 years. We're already approaching 9 years this October since Mario Odyssey. What in the world could be taking this long? This year is going to mark 7 years since Mario Maker 2 and Luigi's Mansion 3. This December is going to be 8 years since Smash Ultimate. How come we haven't seen a remake or a port of Kid Icarus Uprising or a new game, or a new Star Fox game for that matter? How come we haven't gotten any type of new cross-collaboration thing with another company like they did with Ubisoft and Mario Rabbids, giving us 2 games that were both successful, the first game being massively successful? You'd think Nintendo would want to capitalize on that and do something with another company like that. How come we still don't have a major first-party game at least announced so we can look forward to it? I guess Nintendo's heavily relying on Splatoon Raiders and Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave to carry most of this year. I'm very sure that there's going to be some stuff for Zelda's anniversary and probably one big holiday game outside of that, but that's probably all we're going to be getting for this year. And based off of what Nintendo seems to be doing right now and the rumors suggesting that next week is going to be a partner showcase, I'm not very excited. All I can do is keep praising Nintendo for 2017 and just how good that year was, and just how focused they were in making sure the Switch wasn't a failure like the Wii U. I hate to say it, it's almost like, do I kind of want the Switch 2 to lose its legs and start stumbling again? A little bit. Like, I want Nintendo to be successful, but their ego, I feel like, is starting to get to their heads, where they feel like they can just flood the schedule with little spin-offs and remakes, remasters, and Switch 2 editions to the point where they can keep people content and happy without having to announce major titles. But for me, at least, I don't need something to play from Nintendo every single month. I mean, most people can't even afford games in this climate, to buy every single month, even if it is just a $20 DLC here, a $60 game here, a $70 game there. It's just too much, and especially when the game's content is nowhere near worth the price that they're charging. But yeah, I will always be quality over quantity, and I don't mind waiting 3 or 4 months to play a major title that feels like it's worth it every single time. But that's just me. I'm gonna leave you today with one thing that I've seen online from a couple of people that really resonated with me, where Nintendo used to deliver experiences, not just video games. Anybody can fill a schedule with games that you'll play and forget about shortly after, but only few companies can really bring true brand new experiences that stick with you forever. It's time for Nintendo to prove that they're that company again with Switch 2. Have a blessed day, guys. See ya.